Ever want to peek into the past to discover turns of events and surprising insights that can give you the feel of another time? There were a few ladies who defied expectations. Kate Carney went looking for such a woman and found Juliette Low, who founded America's Girl Scouts.
I did not discover scouting until I was in my middle age. So my family thought that it was just another one of my phases. So they called it Girl Scouting. Well, little did they know how serious I was and how much I wanted more meaning in my life. And little did I know that at scouting would revolutionize my life. I started with a few girls in Savannah, Georgia in 1912, and all of them wanted to be more physically fit and to play sports, which was fine, but their parents didn't want them to do anything physical for fear of their becoming tomboys. Now, I have faced this issue myself previously. So I called a parents' meeting and I said, you may not know this, but I was a tomboy myself as a child, and I think you should know that I am living proof that a tomboy can grow into a respectable, deaf, older lady. So you see, what is the harm in some girls taking a hike?
We now join Sally Mummey as Mary Todd Lincoln in 1864.
I determined that the man I married would be president and I would be first lady. Growing up, I was always fascinated with politics, and I became very fluent in the language, if you will. I was courted by two men who would be presidential candidates. Stephen Douglas, a very polished and elegant man, if somewhat short, the very man that my family wanted me to marry. And Abraham Lincoln, a raw, unpolished, if you will, country lawyer. Against my family's wishes, I chose Mr. Lincoln, and I started the very unenviable task of teaching him the social graces, if you will, the courtesies, and trying to tame his wild Republican hair. In fact, I was the first one that told Mr. Lincoln that he would be president.
Libby Franck of Framingham is commissioned by the Framingham History Center to bring to life local women of the past.
Now, when I first learned to read, the first book I remember was called The Iroquois Bride. And I thought it would make a lovely play, so I invited the family as the audience. And I, of course, got to be the Iroquois bride, and my little brother Marion was my lover, and we climbed on a footstool and stabbed each other to death. Well, the adults were shocked. The book was taken away from me. My three brothers were sent off to boarding school. I was always addressed as Miss Ward by the servants since I was the oldest daughter. And there I was, alone with my books and my music and my study of foreign languages. But then, my brother Sam became engaged to Emily Astor, the granddaughter of John Jacob Astor, the richest man in all of New York City. You know, what a plethora of parties surrounded their engagement and their wedding. At last, my dancing lessons were put to good use.
So here, singing and explaining some of Sweet Freedom's songs is Deborah Ann Goss as Abby Hutchinson Patton.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. When that song was first sung at the Park Street Church in Boston, Massachusetts, on the 4th of July in 1831, I was 2 years old. and there were 2 million slaves in this land of liberty. 2 million slaves. Well, now that didn't set right with us Hutchinsons up in Milford, New Hampshire.
You know about the Lowell Mill girls, but do you know of their boarding housekeepers? Mrs. Larkham is a house mother who watched over 30 girls. It's 1843. Accidents are happening. The mills are cutting wages. The mill girls are astir. Some of them are protesting. Mrs. Larkham feels she dare not protest, and besides, she needs her job. Her quandary is as spellbinding as today's headlines.
Now, when I first came here, my friend Mrs. Abbott showed me around. Well, we're friends, but we don't always agree. And there was a little girl, an 8-year-old named Harriet Hanson, tagging along, and Mrs. Abbott showed me the first of the bedrooms, and that little girl just piped right up and she said, look at how they got 3 double beds into a room that's built for 2. And besides that, there's the washstand and the nightstands and the chest of drawers and the trunks and hat boxes and band boxes and dresses of the 6 girls. It's a wonder the 6 girls can fit in at all. Ha! Said Mrs. Abbott. Oh, well, no, everybody fits if nobody breathes. Of course, you might not want to breathe, though, because, well, we seal the windows shut from September to May to save on cold, don't you know? And so when the girls, well, there's a lot of girls, they just don't wash so well as you'd like, especially in winter, because, you know, they'd have to break the ice in order to get to some water. So I guess you'd say that we just don't wash winters.